He didn't ask questions, just swung. Rain slapped the cracked sidewalks of Eastfield as Officer Dale Winston's fist collided with the woman's cheek. She dropped to the pavement beside the rusted cart she'd been dragging, filled with worn clothes, baby formula, and a broken umbrella. The baby in the sling on her chest let out a shriek that sliced through the sirens and street noise. Dale didn't blink. To him, she was just another vagrant interfering with city order, another stain to clear from the gentrifying district. She didn't cry. She didn't even flinch once she hit the ground. Blood trickled down her lip, but her eyes, those calm storm-gray eyes, looked up at him like she'd seen worse, survived worse. Dale sneered, kicked the cart aside, and barked to the others. She resisted. We'll add that to the report. Then she smiled, just slightly, like a secret passed between ghosts. The crowd, initially frozen in disbelief, erupted. Phones came out. Shouts echoed. A man in a hoodie yelled, "You hit a mother with a baby. Are you mad?" But Dale already had his boot on her belongings, posing like control was his birthright. She stood up slowly, with deliberate grace. The baby, a wide-eyed boy no older than a year, had stopped crying. She adjusted him on her chest, not breaking. Eye contact. "You messed up," she said softly. Dale scoffed, grabbing her wrist. "Keep talking, lady. You'll see where that gets you." But he didn't see it coming. The shift in her stance, the way her weight transferred, the elbow she jabbed into his ribs just short of cracking them. In one fluid move, she had him on his knees, wrist twisted behind his back. Gasps rippled through the bystanders. Then the badge slipped from her hidden pouch. Black leather, gold seal, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And her name, Agent Alina Rhodes. The air changed. Dale froze. One of the junior officers swore under his breath. Cameras zoomed in. A wave of recognition and dread washed over Dale's arrogant face. She stood tall, a poor mother no more, but an undercover agent whose identity had just detonated across social media. Back at the precinct, Captain Morales stared at the surveillance. Footage in stunned silence. The video had gone viral in under 3 hours. The city mayor had already called. The captain turned to a trembling Officer Dale. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I didn't know," Dale stammered. She was dressed like trash. She was blocking traffic, begging. She was conducting a classified surveillance mission for the FBI, embedded as a civilian for 2 years, the captain snapped. "And you assaulted her, with a baby strapped to her chest." The room fell silent. Meanwhile, Agent Alina Rhodes sat quietly in an interrogation room, this time not as the suspect, but as the one writing the internal report. Her cover was blown. But the mission, far from over. She didn't cry over the hit. She'd been hit harder before, in basements, warehouses, safe houses across 3 states. But this punch, this one made her chest burn for a different reason. Because it didn't come from a criminal. It came from someone in uniform, someone who swore to protect. And now, the entire department was under a microscope? The door opened. An FBI liaison entered, nodding respectfully. "Ma'am, you're cleared to return to HQ. We've rerouted the operation to a secure facility." Alina stood. "And Officer Dale?" "He's suspended pending federal charges. Internal Affairs has taken over." She nodded but said nothing. There was more. There always was. That night, she returned to the small shelter where she'd been, living. A woman named Rhonda, who ran the place, rushed to her side. "Alina, are you okay? I saw the footage. I had no idea you were—" Alina hugged her. "I'm okay. Thank you for watching my son these past weeks. I'll be taking him now." Rhonda wiped tears. "You're leaving?" Alina nodded. "They compromised my cover. The operations moved." "What were you even doing here?" Alina looked around the shelter. women with bruises, children sleeping on mats, a man cooking rice on a hot plate, all of them unseen by the world outside. She said, trying to bring justice to where it hides, but inside her, something shifted. The undercover life had blurred into her reality. She'd begun the assignment pretending to be poor, but now she understood what it meant. The humiliation, the system that overlooked suffering, the cruel irony that those meant to protect often did the most harm. Her son stirred in his sling. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "You'll never be invisible again." Alina's file was stamped with clearance levels most agents never saw. She had infiltrated gun syndicates, cracked terror cells, and once rescued hostages by crawling through air vents with nothing but a flashlight and a phone. But nothing had prepared her for Eastfield, not the criminals, but the cruelty disguised as order. Now her face was everywhere. News anchors debated her presence. Protesters marched outside the precinct. Hashtags exploded. Agent Mother. Justice for Alina. Punchback. But Alina didn't want headlines. She wanted justice. Quiet, thorough justice. Back at FBI headquarters, she walked through the marble corridors with her baby in a carrier, flanked by agents who now saw her differently. Not just as a legend, but as a mother, bruised and silent, whose mission had unraveled in the most public way possible. The assistant director called her into the situation room. "Rhodes, sit." She did. "We've shut down the Eastfield operation, transferred all informants, and Agent Carson will take your place." Alina said nothing. She rocked her baby gently. Her jaw still throbbed from the punch, but her silence was louder than rage. The director leaned forward. "Off the record, why didn't you stop him before he hit you?" She didn't blink. "Because the body cam wouldn't have recorded what he almost did, only what he did." The room fell silent. "You wanted the world to see it?" "No," she said. "I wanted him to see it." Across the city, Officer Dale Winston was pacing in his small apartment. Suspended. Unpaid. His name on every blog, as the cop who hit an FBI mother. Threats flooded his phone. He hadn't left the house in 36 hours. He opened his laptop and replayed the footage again. Her eyes. That stare. Like she knew everything. Like she wasn't afraid. He told himself. He wasn't a bad guy, just doing his job, just trying to enforce the law. But even as he thought it, guilt wrapped around his throat like barbed wire. He opened a new tab, typed, "How to issue a public apology," then deleted it. Cowards don't confess, they hide. Meanwhile, back at the FBI's East Side office, Alina handed off her baby to the daycare program inside the building, a perk granted only to agents with elite service. She hesitated by the window, watching him laugh in the arms of a gentle woman. For once, he wasn't crying. For once, she didn't have to pretend to be someone she wasn't. She walked into a small conference room where internal affairs waited. They were reviewing the broader pattern. Not just Dale Winston, but the entire precinct. Complaints ignored, video evidence missing, patterns of excessive force disproportionately targeting women and the homeless. "You cracked more than a drug ring," one IA agent told her. "You cracked a whole department." Alina folded her hands. "That department made me poor." The agent blinked. "What do you mean?" She glanced down at her worn shoes. "They're not the only ones who judged me. The world did. Every time I walked into a store with my child. Every time someone clutched their purse. Every time I applied for housing and got turned away because I had no visible income. It wasn't just the badge. It was the system." That evening, a secret memo was circulated across federal networks. Classified, Agent Alina Rhodes. Recommendation for Medal of Civil Integrity. But she didn't care about medals. She didn't care about speeches. She only cared about one thing: making sure no woman ever had to pretend to be homeless to be seen. No mother should have to take a punch to reveal the truth. And yet, that punch had revealed more than her identity. It had exposed a crack in the world's reflection, a truth so uncomfortable, even justice flinched. At midnight, she returned to the shelter one last time. She held hands with the women, hugged the staff, left a thick envelope of anonymous donations, every penny of her undercover bonus. On her way out, Rhonda stopped her. "You know, the people here don't care who you are. They just care that you stayed." Alina smiled. Sometimes that's the most undercover job of all. The next morning, the city awoke to a press conference. Not by the mayor, not by the precinct, but by the FBI. They played the video in full. The hit, the twist, the badge, the silence that Ewan followed. And then Alina stepped forward, holding her child. "I was embedded in Eastfield to investigate corruption," she said. "But I found something deeper. Not just broken laws, but broken hearts, broken trust, and a badge that wasn't protecting people. It was protecting itself." She stepped back without answering questions, because she'd said everything she needed, with that one moment when she refused to stay down. The punch became a symbol. It wasn't just a fist striking a mother. It was the weight of centuries landing squarely on the face of every woman who had ever been poor, black, unseen, and unprotected. News outlets didn't stop. Morning shows dissected it. Politicians rushed to speak while the public kept reposting the video. But Alina didn't flinch. She returned to training the next day, her swollen cheek fading, her spine straighter than ever. She refused to be turned into a victim. In the gym, she sparred like a soldier. In the briefing room, she strategized like a general. Yet deep down, something had shifted. She was no longer willing to just expose the system. She wanted to rebuild it. In the shadows of her exposure, whispers rose within law enforcement circles. Some hailed her as a hero. Others saw her as a traitor, airing dirty laundry to the world, ruining the image of the badge. One officer even posted on a private forum, "Maybe she deserved it for pretending to be what she wasn't." The comment was traced. The badge number was suspended. But that wasn't enough. Alina proposed something radical. A federal task force led by women, especially mothers who had worked undercover or in high-risk zones. She wanted policies reviewed, training restructured, officers required to live among the communities they policed, not just pass through in patrol cars. Her superiors hesitated. "It's not how it's done," she replied. "That's the problem." And behind her, dozens of agents, black, Latina, white, Asian, stood in silent solidarity, because she had taken a hit for all of them. Meanwhile, Officer Dale Winston had gone underground, fired, fined, threatened. His father, once a cop himself, refused to speak to him. His landlord raised his rent after recognizing him on the news. The bar he used to drink at banned him. Dale was no longer just a man with a badge. He was the man who lost his humanity in front of millions. One night, he walked into a soup kitchen with a hoodie pulled low. No one recognized him. He sat across from a woman with a black eye and her daughter curled on her lap. "Cops did that," she muttered. Dale stared at the ground. "Not all of them are like that." She laughed bitterly. "That's what they all say, until they are." He didn't reply, because he couldn't. For the first time in his life, Dale Winston felt small. Not because someone had taken his badge, but because he finally understood how much damage it could cause when worn without care. Back at the bureau, Alina stood before a congressional committee. They asked her, "Why didn't you report the officer before going public?" She answered, "Because I wasn't the one who went public. Your people did. The moment that punch landed, the world decided to watch." Another asked, "What would you do differently if you had the chance?" She said, "I wouldn't stop the punch. I would only wish it didn't have to happen for you to believe us." A murmur rippled through the panel. One woman on the committee wiped her eyes. Another simply nodded. Because the truth was this: the story had moved beyond the punch. It had become about everything the punch represented. The mayor of Eastfield, under mounting pressure, announced sweeping reforms. Civilian review boards. Mandatory body cam uploads. Anti-bias retraining. And most importantly, reparations for those wrongfully arrested or assaulted, including Alina Rhodes, who declined financial settlement. Instead, she requested something else: a community center, a place for women with children, with no homes, no voices, no hope. They built it at the corner of 83rd and Monroe, where the punch had happened. Its name: the Rhodes Center for Mothers in Crisis. And the plaque at the entrance read, "She didn't fall. She stood for all." Alina visited it quietly one afternoon. She walked among the children painting, the women learning job skills, the volunteers sorting clothes. No cameras followed her, no news anchors hovered. It was quiet, honest, healing. Rhonda was there, organizing supplies. She spotted Alina and hugged her without a word. "This is yours," Rhonda whispered. Alina shook her head. "It's theirs." A young girl tugged her jacket. "Are you the lady who punched the bad cop back?" Alina smiled. "No, I'm the lady who showed the world what that punch meant." The girl nodded, satisfied. That night, as Alina rocked her baby to sleep, she looked out the window at the city glowing beneath the clouds. Her phone buzzed with messages from agents, mothers, strangers, survivors. People she'd never met, thanking her for surviving publicly, for hurting loudly, for reminding them they were not invisible. She kissed her son's forehead. Not all stories are born in war zones or elite operations. Some are born on cracked sidewalks. With a punch, Hidoji Homen. Streets of Eastfield had grown quiet, but not from fear, from awareness. Where once silence meant surrender, now it held the echo of justice. The video of the punch had sparked more than a conversation. It ignited a reckoning. Police departments across the country held emergency reviews. Officers who once acted with impunity now walked with uncertainty, their power newly questioned. And in the center of it all was the image of a poor, single mother holding a baby, standing tall with a badge in one hand and a swollen cheek on her face. Agent Alina Rhodes hadn't planned to become a movement. But when the system made her invisible, she fought back by making herself undeniable. 3 months later, the FBI's official press division released a report titled "Agent in Disguise: A Case Study in Ethical Policing and Undercover Justice." It was required reading at police academies. Her footage was used in national de-escalation training. But Alina stayed away from the spotlight. She declined interviews. She refused awards. Her silence wasn't out of shame, but dignity. She had work to finish. At the Rhodes Center, she returned weekly, not as an agent, but as a volunteer. She brought meals, taught self-defense classes, and sat in circles of women who thought no one understood them, until she listened. One evening, a woman named Tamara broke down during a session. She had been evicted, lost custody of her child, and was on the verge of giving up. "Nobody sees us," she sobbed. "We're just stories people scroll past." Alina looked at her, heart heavy. "Then we tell our own stories, so loud they can't scroll away." Tamara looked up, and something flickered in her eyes. Hope. Meanwhile, Dale Winston had faded from headlines, but not from memory. Stripped of rank, publicly condemned and unemployable, he found work cleaning cars at a mechanic's shop on the city's edge. No badge, no power, just a sponge and silence. But something unexpected happened. One day, a mother and her daughter entered the shop. She recognized him. The girl clung to her leg. Dale froze, expecting the worst. The woman stared. "I know who you are." "I'm sorry," he said, voice shaking. She tilted her head. "Sorry doesn't fix a broken face." "No," he whispered, "it doesn't." "Then help fix something else." And she left. The next day, Dale signed up for a restorative justice program. Not to save his name, but to learn why it had been so easy for him to hurt someone like Alina. The FBI quietly promoted Alina, not to a public-facing role, but to a unit designed to embed human empathy into field training. She worked behind the scenes, designing programs for new agents who would enter communities not as enforcers, but as protectors. One of her first lessons? Never assume weakness just because someone looks poor. Poverty is not a crime. And motherhood is not a disguise. Every new recruit wrote it in their notebook. She never asked them to remember her name. She just made sure they never forgot her message. Years later, her son, older now, curious, bold, stood beside her at a dedication ceremony. The city had renamed the Eastfield Precinct. Rhodes Station. Inside, a wall displayed a mural of mothers, children, and agents working side by side. Below it, a single sentence. "She wore the pain so we could carry the change." Her son looked up at her. "Was it scary?" he asked. Alina smiled softly. "Yes, but not more than staying silent." "Will I be brave like you?" She placed a hand on his chest. "You already are. You were with me through it all." On the way home, they passed the exact spot where it all began. The sidewalk, the cart, the rain. It was clean now, freshly paved. A small bronze plaque sat near the corner. Here stood a woman everyone overlooked, until she showed the world what could no longer be ignored. A mother, a fighter, a truth-teller. She had pretended to be poor to expose injustice, but in the process she discovered something deeper. That the greatest weapon she ever carried wasn't her badge, her training, or her title. It was her identity. Single mother, unapologetically seen, unshakably heard, unbreakably whole.